Hey beautiful people, today we're going to talk about how to be more innovative in the workplace. One of my favorite topics. In this episode, you're going to learn how to apply the innovation practice model in day-to-day work, ways to transform routine tasks into innovation opportunities, and practical techniques for building innovation capacity in yourself and those around you and your team. What if innovation isn't about light bulbs or genius breakthroughs, and it's really about practices? There's a powerful connection between innovation and observation, and I want to make that for you. I want to help you learn how to be able to build sustainable innovation practices. By the end of this video, I'd love you to be able to see how to start practicing innovation yourself and begin to distinguish between innovation as magic light bulbs and innovation as a day-to-day practice that you can incorporate into how you go about building value at work. In my book, The Innovation Mindset, I talk about the innovation practice model, and part of the reason why this is so important is that if we think about innovation as genius light bulbs, and it's really interesting because if you go on Google right now and you type in innovation and you go to images, you actually get lots of images of light bulbs, and I'm sure somewhere in one of my thumbnails there's a whole bunch of light bulbs. We tend to think of innovation as flashes of genius that go on in brilliant people's heads that allow them to be able to innovate. I'd actually propose, and most of my work is based on this idea, and my book is based on this idea, but I would actually propose to you that innovation is actually a practice that all of us are born with the capacity to do. Now, over the years, we get that capacity beaten out of us, but it doesn't mean that we don't have it. And if you start thinking of innovation as a practice, you open the door for yourself to start practicing innovation, but you also open the door for your team to start practicing innovation. And you start helping them understand the difference between continuous improvement and innovation. But you also know that continuous improvement, a lot of the practices that we use for innovation are also practices we use for continuous improvement. So you can help them step onto that ladder and start moving up the ladder from continuous improvement to really being able to innovate. The innovation practice model has got 6 steps, and I'm going to dive into it a little bit to help you see how to be able to use it as an innovation practice model to start getting you on the path to innovating both for yourself and your team. The first step is to distinguish. And by that what I mean is distinguish what are the opportunities just for improvement. Let's just start with improvement. And once you start distinguishing opportunities for improvement, you can start observing some of the patterns that reveal a potential for innovation. So what do I mean by that? If you're working with another team in your organization and they are lobbing stuff over the wall at you, I was doing a speech in Europe a couple of weeks ago, and we actually did a survey as part of the speech, and I asked people, what percentage of your time do you spend dealing with stuff that gets lobbed over the wall to you? And we had about 500 people in the audience, and their responses were overwhelmingly that they're spending 60 to 70% of their time dealing with stuff that gets lobbed over the wall to them. Now, if this is a case for you, drop me a note in the comments and let me know if you're in the same boat. But a lot of these people are absolutely in the same position, and they're getting a lot of stuff lobbed over the wall at them. Those are fantastic opportunities for innovation. If you're working with another department and they are constantly lobbing stuff over the wall at you and your people, there is an opportunity to be able to improve how you work with them. And that sounds completely obvious, but very few of us actually do it because we haven't taken the time to see it as part of an emerging innovation opportunity. And if you start seeing it as that, what you start doing is you start distinguishing what are some of the patterns that reveal potential innovation. That's one of the patterns that reveals potential innovation. If you start seeing that as an opportunity to innovate rather than an opportunity to go and strangle the head of the other department, what you'll start seeing is you start stepping back and looking at what are the recurring practices that are happening in here that are resulting in your people just getting buried under a pile of tasks that get assigned to them from the other department. The third step in the innovation practice model is to practice courage. So this is the moment when you, as the person who's asking this great question, and as the person who's innovating and hopefully has a team that you are also leading, begins to look at what would it take for me to design an opportunity to be able to go and have a conversation with the head of the other department that looks like a design for an improvement of how it is that we work together. I am not doing a whole bunch of complaining. I am not trying to exhort them to do a whole lot of things better. What I'm doing is I'm coming in with a different way of looking at how we could coordinate together and how we could actually deliver value together and how we could declare standards together that will support us in doing that. Once you have a good understanding of what's going on and you've come up with some ideas about how it is that you could make it work better, and you've identified for yourself whether or not you're the customer for that department or they're your customer, that's going to shift the dynamic significantly. And I've done a number of other videos on how to make powerful and effective offers and how to be able to really start looking at another department as your customer for work that you do, or vice versa. Once you've established that relationship and you know who's customer in the grand scheme of things, what you do is you create a situation where you can now actually co-invent better practices with them that will allow you to be able to innovate more effectively together. Once you've had that first preliminary meeting and you've started talking about how could we solve this problem together, it's producing a lot of breakdowns for us without blame and shame. Is there a way that we could actually design a better process together? Once you've had that preliminary conversation and people have kind of vented a bunch of their frustration, which is kind of inevitable part of the process, you now put yourself in a position where you can begin to start co-inventing with the other team and with the other lead. And once you start doing that, you start actually doing that beautiful dance of improv together. Hey, look, I'm committed to delivering for you. I'm committed to producing satisfaction for you. You're committed to doing the same thing for me. How do we actually improve the way that we engage? What are the practices we need to bring to the game that will allow us to be able to serve each other better and make work more enjoyable for both of us and deliver more value and deliver better results? Once you start doing that, you start creating knowledge, because if you can reach that level of understanding and agreement at the department head to department head or project lead to project lead level, what you start doing is you start creating knowledge that has a cascading effect for everyone who works for you. And the knowledge can show up as something like, these are the metrics we've agreed to, these are the standards we've agreed to, this is how we're committed to be able to serve each other, these people are actually our customer and we need to be able to serve them. When they lob stuff over the wall at us, we now actually are asking them to have a deeper, richer conversation with us that will allow us to deliver more value to them. So you begin to start shifting the practices of the people around you based on the knowledge that you're creating and co-inventing together. So by starting off with something very small that is a breakdown that you're dealing with and beginning to observe the patterns and practices around it and beginning to create new practices that allow you to be able to work more effectively with the source of the breakdown, what you do is you open the door for innovation. Now, just to set some realistic expectations for yourself, these shifts and changes usually take somewhere between 6 to 12 months. So you might be looking at initiating a project around these breakdowns that you have where people are lobbing stuff over the wall at you and your team. And it may take you 6, 9, 12 months to actually bring new practices into place and begin to start seeing a significant improvement. But if you think about your career as being working over a 35 to 40-year life cycle, then it's really important to recognize that you can create enormous change in a period of a year if you really focus in and pay attention on it. Bill Gates has a saying where he says people completely overestimate what they can do in 3 weeks and completely underestimate what they can do in 3 years. I love this quote because what it does is it shows that persistent, deliberate, intentional, well-designed practice can actually move mountains. And you are looking to make a big shift into a space of innovation by dealing with something that is a continuous breakdown for you and is causing you a lot of disruption and overwork and overwhelm in your life. That's a great place to start. So innovation capacity develops through recursive practice. And by that, what I mean is, think of it in terms of loops of design and conversation. And as you start bringing people into this space of continuous improvement, moving them towards innovation, you're helping them build practices where they're actually able to listen to other people, design standards with them, develop metrics with them, deal with breakdowns with them, start treating them like customers, begin to make offers to see how they could improve things. And you're opening up a space for them to be able to build innovation practices. They're right now using them for continuous improvement or for just improvement, but they ultimately will move them over into innovation practices. Once people start seeing the scope of possibility as to how work can be more effective, can deliver more value, how they can engage better with other departments, they're going to start making offers to you themselves. And you need to be ready for that in terms of the offers are going to be clumsy and awkward in the beginning, but the offers are certainly going to be around how they can do small continuous improvement projects that will ultimately lead to powerful innovation that they're able to bring to the table. As you go through this process and you begin to move through the innovation practice model and you start doing your first improvement project, I invite you to look at my innovation readiness assessment. It'll give you an idea of where you are in the process of growing your innovation capacity, both for yourself and your team. Let me know how it goes for you. There's a link down in the comments, www.innovationreadinessassessment.com. Take it, see where you stand. Let me see how I can help you. I wish you the best of luck on this adventure.